Ms. Herbert is called on the phone. Ms. Wilson.
You ready?
I am. I'm ready for Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Here.
Here.
Present.
Yes. Present.
Here. Reverend McDowell, can you
Yes, sir.
say a short word for us?
Yes, sir. Creator and merciful, omnipresent, always abounding in your love, we gather here today to sense and to witness your presence. Be with us individually and yet collectively, allowing each one of us to feel the winds of your spirit. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Reverend McDowell,
Ma'am.
I know you and I have talked about this yesterday at length, but we're still sending a lot of prayers for our police department and the loss of Officer Riley. No, sir. I met with his mother yesterday, and she was still working through that. Maybe next week, to be honest with you, Mayor. Dad and some family out of town. Yeah.
Adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt the agenda with the addition of item 6 in executive session, discussion of matters relating to the proposed location expansion or provision of services encouraging location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body pursuant to 30-4-785 project framework.
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, could you read the roll, please?
She's here. Oh.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Aye. Thank you for that donation of your expense account to our future causes.
The agenda.
You said yes. Anyway, Madam City Manager?
Yes, sir. We will begin our city council discussion items with item number 1, the city council proposed zoning public hearing schedule. Ms. Krista Hampton, Planning and Development Services Director. Ms. Krista.
Good afternoon, everyone. Favorably out of committee is a recommendation to help streamline the timing of reviews that come to you for your zoning public hearing. You currently only hold those every other month. And so a project that may go to Planning Commission sometimes has to wait 2 months to come to you before that zoning public hearing. So what this would do is take away that month from that review time. So our recommendation to you is to hold a zoning public hearing every month. That would be at your second meeting of the month.
And this is just the public hearing that comes to the city council.
Correct, yes. Planning Commission still meets monthly. And so what happens is, some of those cases kind of lay fallow while they're waiting for your zoning public hearing. So it would be 1 month Planning Commission, and then it would come to the city council. And all of the public notice items would remain the same.
And we're not going to put a time. We used to say that they would start at 7 o'clock, and we had to sit there for 15 minutes waiting for 7 o'clock.
No, so that's entirely at your discretion. So. Any questions?
Any other questions for Ms. Hampton? Thank you, Krista. That was a great presentation.
Like them when they're quick.
I appreciate how you kept it very short and brief and to the point.
I've had longer ones recently, so I've needed a balance.
Thank you, Krista. Item 2, the Columbia Economic Development Department Action Plan Update. Mr. Ryan Coleman, the Economic Development Director, will come forward. I think you all have received the final draft of the annual plan.
Let's try opening this the right way up. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council.
Ms. Wilson, excuse me once again, should we say this comes as a recommendation of unanimous from the committee?
Yes, sir, I think he was gonna
Okay.
say that. Yes, sir, absolutely. Yes, sir, Councilman.
Okay. Yes, thank you all. Glad to be here today to speak with you about the Economic Development Annual Plan. We have been working extensively with the Economic Development Committee and staff, which we've come together on this plan that we're here to discuss with you all this afternoon. Wanted to take some time just to go through this kind of item by item and give you all an update on the recommendations that have come out of the committee and the plan as it stands, and give you an opportunity to review and provide any additional recommendations or feedback you may have for our consideration. And then barring that, I think we are good to proceed with approval and enacting the plan.
Ryan, let me ask just one question.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
this has been reviewed by Economic Development
Yes, sir.
2 times. You all have approved the amendments or add-ons. So just as a matter of record, you're reporting that to us, right?
That's correct, sir.
Is that right? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the Economic Development Plan was born out of the City Council retreat work that was done earlier this year, along with the set of 7 strategic outcomes that focus on our city's priorities to secure the future of the city of Columbia. And the adopted vision statement that we have listed for that is the Economic Growth Statement, which Columbia is a capital city with a competitive tax and fee structure that welcomes new investment. The city's business recruiters specialize in urban economic development and are willing to go where it takes to bring back the best hospitality, retail, corporate opportunities, and investment capital to Columbia, while project managers work simultaneously to help our small businesses and entrepreneurs, as well as those who have chosen to locate here. The plan then dovetails into several overall areas of focus. The first area being the business-friendly improvements. Item number 1, economic development will proceed with assembling a 15-person advisory board that will consist of a mix of existing business owners of various business sizes and types, developers, commercial brokers, geographies, and various other business community leaders. This group will also include members from the Columbia Council of Neighborhoods and a member from the Mayor's Minority Business Advisory Council. The group will meet once per quarter to provide recommendations and feedback on where the city can continue to improve business-friendly processes and procedures. Item number 2, staff will provide increased
Ryan,
Yes, sir.
in that 15, you can do all of that and recruit all of these persons, 15, you say?
Yes, sir.
Does that is it limited to 15, or is 15 the magic number?
I think that's a goal number that we set in place. We wanted to have, enough people to provide a pretty good broad consensus on some of the things that we wanted to focus on without making the committee so large that it became unwieldy. That was just kind of a comfortable number that we gravitated to, but it could be less, could be more.
And Mr. Coleman, I do have one question. I was looking at an old version, I guess, this morning, and we had business associations or business association members, but that's not in this final copy. I'm just realizing that. Are we including business associations or no?
Consider them other business community leaders, or?
Well, I only noticed because it specifically business associations was in the wrong copy that I pulled up. And I didn't know if that was intentional or.
I think the original format that we had for this involved that was the brokers and the roundtable groups that was specific to the business association. So we would have had one subgroup that was just strictly the association heads. That being said, they're not excluded from this, so we would certainly welcome the opportunity. They could be included in this as well.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 2, Staff will provide increased support to create more predictability on the timing of permitting and projects, to determine the steps the city can take to improve our customer interactions with developers and investors and increase the speed of approvals. Determine if staffing levels are commensurate with where they need to be in order to maximize our city's efficiency. Look at where we can more effectively utilize technology to increase those efficiencies as well, and determine and define optimum turnarounds for small, medium, and large project sizes.
I think it's important for us to, as we develop plans to execute this improvement, is to quantify what increased support means, as well as the speed of approvals, have a good understanding, and I'd like to know where we are now and where we plan to be. Because even when we were doing our orientation earlier this year, we learned about various technologies, with you all using Salesforce, other folks using other databases, even internally within the city. And there being some immediate changes that could be made to create more predictability. So I'd like to see us continue to define that and get an update at whatever appropriate time of how you all plan to measure success in that
Yes,
route.
ma'am. Okay. Item number 3, relocation of the Economic Development Department to City Hall, which will provide better access to the mayor, city manager, and leadership when working with prospects. Better leverage our leadership and key decision makers as an integral part to our business and investment recruitment process.
How many staff persons are we talking about, Ryan? If you move it from where we are now to City Hall?
We are looking at a staff of 5 individuals. Currently, 2 would need to relocate.
Now, will we have space for that to take place here at City Hall?
I think
That would be
staff is
for me.
working to identify.
He's like, I'm not taking that on.
Ma'am?
I would say Ryan's probably gonna look to me and Jeff to answer that question. So my thought process at this point, with space being such a premium in City Hall, Reverend McDowell, is upstairs. The suite behind Chambers, the suites behind Chambers. I mean, honestly, there's no other appropriate location in City Hall at this point.
Of course, there'd have to be some,
And we will make sure that city council has another office space to utilize. But for the purpose of what I'm being
So this-
told is the reason for the change, to have this proximity to
all in
the
one
manager and the mayor in an appropriate location, that provides a conference room for them to utilize, provides appropriate office space, and for the ability of folks to visit City Hall and walk through the chambers and to the back. I mean, space is a premium here. I don't know where else we would put them, to be honest.
Mezzanine. What's on the mezzanine?
I don't know that you want to have prospects being taken down to the mezzanine, but we have young staff that can certainly go to the mezzanine and work from the mezzanine. We have upgraded the mezzanine, so it's perfectly fine. There's office space there. Some of the mayor staff is there now.
It just
A little
it seems-
drafty on the mezzanine.
It seems, because there is a premium on space here at City Hall, it would just seem to me that if we do the 3rd floor, that suite of offices there, I mean, we don't need we just need a tree where we can do business under.
I'm well aware that I'll make sure city council has an office space to utilize, which would be probably more appropriate to be accessible to me on this floor. Also near the mayor's suite back
Sure.
here.
Well, it would certainly be the most logical place to be. Yeah, we can, just give us a big oak
Well,
tree.
a different plan had a whole set of office spaces for council, but
So-
we moved away from that plan, so.
I mean, so if-
Now we're back to
Excuse
this
me,
building.
You're good.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
If we could, the 3rd floor would be fine, and that would give us the available space for Ryan and 4 other 4 other offices, is that right? On that 3rd floor?
Well, one of them is already up there. One of the offices
The
is
offices
there.
is already there.
One of
Got a
the staff
conference
persons
room.
is already up there.
You got the kitchen, the little feeding trough there. And then, of course, you've got the larger room. Where is Shanique? Where would she go? I mean, there has to
Well,
be some
I'm just not
logistical
used to
changes.
talking about all this in such a public forum, and letting staff know off the cuff this way without me talking about it with them first.
Well,
But
don't-
Shanique had been in here with the mayor, which is at this council conference room. It lends itself anyway to her. She's always up and down. So Shanique would probably move in here again.
Well,
and-
I don't particularly
Yeah.
want you to get into specifics.
Okay,
You don't have to.
yes, sir.
I agree with what the Economic Development Committee wants to do and what they are
Mm-hmm.
proposing. I think it centralizes everything else.
Right,
It put them in a building where city manager and mayor is. I think it's a unique opportunity.
yes, sir.
My issue, of course, is there's going to have to be some reconfiguring done of those places you already done in terms of
Yep,
whether or not, what it's going to cost us to do that in terms of reconfiguring some of the office spaces and that sort of thing.
it shouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, we have already updated the mezzanine level as much as probably it can be. And Mr. Simons can speak to some of the things we've already done on the mezzanine. The mezzanine, though, is, me personally, I don't think that presents the best opportunity for bringing in prospects and, yeah, it's not handicap accessible. That would not make sense to put people on the mezzanine.
Well, it certainly gives, and I'm sorry for-
Not this staff.
I'm not asking, this is another conversation.
Yes,
and-
sir.
But it would certainly seem to me that because we occasionally meet with constituents, we occasionally have executive committee meetings in the 3rd floor room. There has to be some reconfiguring where those kinds of things can take place. Council members, what we would probably need is a large oak tree right in the middle of chamber. That's where we do our best, that's where we make our best decisions, somewhere under somebody's tree. So yes, I'm in agreement with that. I think it's a unique opportunity for us to bring everybody on board. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And we can talk more about this, but I know space is a premium, but I also think some of these offices, especially on the 1st floor, are huge and only one person is in it. And I think that we need to think about ways in which, especially if you have recruiters that are going to be out in the field a lot, it's very common to be sharing a large office like that if you're just in here to be meeting with people. So I'd just like to talk to you more about some of our options in terms of what makes sense, because I do think that there's a lot of space being underutilized in City Hall.
Well, we can talk about it. I've been here for almost 15 years, and I probably disagree with that. Yes, ma'am?
Well, the only thing I wanted to say is that I do know for a fact that we can make offices out of space because there was an
You got
office
that right.
made specifically for me when I was here. So there are some ways to divide up larger spaces if you're really determined to move a particular person.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving.
Didn't think that item was going to take up most of the conversation, but I'm glad we got the feedback and put it on the table. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. Item number 4, creation of the business liaison position, which was enacted in 2021 and will be moved under the economic development staff. Item 5, keep city council and the city manager better apprised of the issues that are affecting business growth and recruitment. Coordinate with other business-facing city departments, such as our Office of Business Opportunities, to make sure that we are identifying and addressing these challenges in a comprehensive manner. Item number 2, recruitment. So number 1, prioritize the importance of our urban development targets in new capital to include restaurants, urban residential opportunities, hotels, corporate office, back office, retail and shopping centers, grocery and food stores, new capital and investment, and businesses which utilize our universities for talent and operate in an urban environment. Number 2, fill the newly created business recruitment position and structure the office to support the recruitment of these urban infill projects and startup recruitment. Create more engagement opportunities that will involve the mayor, city manager, and leadership into that process. 3, create data set to sell the city. Tap into our local higher education expertise, such as Darwin Moore School of Business, to create modern data sets and demographics that will aid in soliciting urban development targets, and use this information to create a newly updated pitch book for the city of Columbia. And we've already reached out to the Moore School and begun the process of having conversations with them about getting those students involved in that. Number 4, targeted geographic development efforts that focus on building a strong core as well as corridors where our opportunities are most prevalent. Include the priorities for developing high-traffic pin corners and our nodes. Focus on areas of opportunities for future growth, such as North Main and Broad River Road, which are just as important as a continued focus on improving the urban core. Item 5, leverage USC and our other local colleges for recruitment opportunities, targeting alumni, students' parents, university affiliates, and others. Make sure that we are incorporating and involving all of our local colleges as much as possible. And include local college interns who can help assist with program development and execution, identify opportunities to sell to students and others who have historical ties back to Columbia. Item 6 is 2022 targeted conferences and trade shows. And below that, I've outlined a small chart with just a couple of priority items that we would want to consider over the next few months. ICSC Southeast Retail is coming up. The ULI Fall Meeting is in mid-October. I've already signed up to attend that. ULI Capital Markets is here in the state, planning on attending that in November. And then there's some various site selector consultants towards the end of the year as well.
I think you've included under number 5, the opportunity to employ interns.
Yes, sir.
College interns that are specific, that's in their wheelhouse of their matriculation. I really think that's ideal. And the more interns you get, the more, hopefully, when they graduate, they'll come back to us. So I think unique opportunity, sir.
And what's interesting about that, it plays into long-term from the other colleges as well. Dr. Artis is really working on trying to push her graduates into some of the graduate programs at USC so that they'll become more attached and be more here and try to keep some of that talent here. So there's a lot of crossover. So it'll be very beneficial for all.
So it becomes really all-inclusive in terms of our college participation. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a great retention strategy for our
is.
students as well.
Thank you.
Moving on to marketing, per council's instruction, develop a new marketing strategy and collateral using the data set to sell Columbia. So leveraging and continuing to promote the business-friendly improvements and ongoing tax modernization initiative. Restaurant targeted recruitment programs currently under development, and we'll have a draft prepared for that shortly, working with Colliers to help put that program together. Looking at reinstating video production projects, we had a series we had started called Developers Takes, where we focused on projects that were currently under development, trying to just get broader exposure to the public on what's happening right here around their city. So I think there's some opportunities there. And then leveraging our relationships, again, with our 6 colleges to help develop strategies. Wait, hold on a second. To help develop that strategy and program. Again, I think that's an area where we want to speak to the tech and the talent of the community, and we want to use some of that young talent to help us refine that messaging. implementation of a new email automation system. So we've gotten this system in place and are in the process of getting it set up as we speak. And it allows you to just create automated email flows. So you can send these auto-generated emails out to people, and it will help you identify people that are filling your forms out or connecting to your webpage more. It helps you kind of prioritize where you're getting the most engagement from your emails and who you should be spending more of your time to try to outreach to. Looking for creative ways to promote inner city neighborhoods and promote small businesses and make our areas fun and walkable. And then potential future addition of a possible research staff member who could help assemble collateral as well. Moving on to entrepreneurship, continued support for our partners with GrowCo and the new Boyd Community Innovation Center. And then some new partnerships that we've seen arising up out of the University of South Carolina around their work in technology and cybersecurity as well. And they had a very well-attended SC Decoded conference just a few weeks ago. Got some great engagement there. Support and involvement with new initiatives. This one's coming out of GrowCo, which is the Builders and Backers Program, which is an ideas accelerator. They're going to take 10 of our young entrepreneurs here, and they're going to take them and run them through an idea modeling program that will help them hopefully establish and start some new businesses here in the city. Office support and involvement for the Growth Summit, which is coming up in just 3 weeks on October 21st and 22nd. This has kind of become a marquee event for the city, for the small business community. Really excited that they're taking this event and expanding this to a 2-day event this year for the first time. Discussed a concept for a pitch pilot where the city and/or major employers, we can work together and present our most urgent unsolved problems and need of innovative solutions from local entrepreneurs and investors. And I think Councilwoman Herbert was the one who brought it to our attention that a HBCU-oriented pitch competition would also be a great program to implement as well. Had they already done one of those, Councilwoman Herbert, or was it just kind of a spin-off variation for the pitch project?
Well, this one, they asked us to submit ideas of our problems, and the schools are going to use their tech teams to actually solve the problem. So not necessarily, I guess we are more or less pitching our problems to them, but not like a pitch competition necessarily.
Got it.
But you do know I love pitch competitions, so we can do that.
Let's see. Ongoing efforts to identify small business growth opportunities and directing city staff and council to support where needed to provide assistance and make policy changes that will be beneficial to our small business community. And then finding ways to promote our success stories of our founders. We've got a lot of great people here in the city who are in the process of starting businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs who have been successful at doing it in the past. And we want to continue to tell those stories of these homegrown business owners who are the fabric of our community. Existing business retention and expansion, continue our outreach and reaching out to businesses of all types, sizes, and locations across our community, and continue to focus on assisting the growth of small, women, and minority-owned businesses. And doing a little more work to include our city leadership on our retention calls and outreach efforts as well. And then,
How will this be different than what OBO does? Some of the small business stuff.
Ours, so what we've typically done with business retention and expansion is generalized. You know, there's thousands of businesses here in the city of Columbia, and even when you add economic development and Office of Business Opportunity staff, there's just no way to get to every single body. It's a lot of ground to cover each year. And so, you know, we typically set a target for the number of businesses that we want to reach out to. We try to include Office of Business Opportunities on that when possible. And I think we look for opportunities where if we meet with somebody that the OBO hasn't talked with and we know they have a need for those resources, then we become a referral resource for them as well. We've sent, you know, a lot of people over there who, you know, are asking about facade improvement, the Grease Trap program, and some of the CRLF funding as well. So we try to not be duplicative as much as possible, and kind of stay in similar tracking lanes. But at the end of the day, you know, we know small businesses are going to need things that we simply can't provide.
And I just wanted to tag in that, Ryan, I'm sorry, Mr. Coleman, I think you made the correct distinction too, because OBO offers particular resources, and they're more resource-oriented with the sessions, the classes, the money, which is not what they do with economic development. So I don't see it as duplicative.
Yes, sir.
Just an observational question. The existing business retention and I guess I want you to spell out the difference and compare it one to the other. The recruitment piece and the existing businesses. That's a tough job. And that person or whomever is going to be doing that part of the pie, it becomes a real resilient job because you've got existing businesses. And the second bullet point, of course, recruitment, it sort of feels like those two things could be in some kind of way collaborated together.
It's a new word.
You get on my,
Get it on your nerve.
let me pull my mic up. Man, you get on my nerve, man.
So we've
But
got.
you hear what I'm saying, right?
Yes, sir.
The other question, of course, which I think is a data-driven question, because we've opened up a tremendous number of businesses within the city. How many of those businesses are owned and operated, new businesses, by African Americans? Women? I think that there is a number. Someone asked me that question, and I did not know the answer, nor could I find the answer anywhere. Could we at some point give us that kind of data?
Yes, sir. So are we talking about the new openings that have
Yes.
happened this year? Yeah.
Yes.
We've got, I think, all of those tracked, or almost all of them, and it wouldn't be too hard to go through and that list and kind of quantify.
Would you please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. 25% out of 46. All right, 25% out of.
Roughly.
Out of 46 openings.
Well, that's just what we did openings for. There's a whole lot of other businesses that opened up that didn't have the fanfare and others. So as they're doing this business survey and stuff, I think you'll get a lot of information that'll be helpful for you in the future to be able to share with the public.
Yeah. So we're talking about 25% out of 46. That's
Well, a
just the
lot
first
more.
9
They're the only
months.
people we did ribbon cutting for.
Yeah, that's an estimate, yeah. Okay. Brian, if you haven't done that, or if you are doing that, if that could be tracked in such a way that that question is asked, we've got a legitimate.
Business ownership by
Yes.
SM,
Yes, if we could.
Sure.
Thank you.
we can add that.
Thank you.
All right, and finally, moving down, support city council in the process of finding solutions to reduce the burden of commercial taxes, which is the ongoing work of the committee. And then at the bottom, we've discussed kind of some general measures of success, you know, things that we want to continue to focus on and prioritize in our growth as a city. So the business license, you know, kind of keeping track of that growth year over year. The announced number of new jobs and that capital investment that's been coming in. City center population growth year over year as we're focused on building our urban density downtown. And then how this impacts and increases our city revenue streams, such as property taxes, accommodations tax, hospitality tax, and water sewer revenues. With that, I'll open it up to any
Any other
additional input
questions?
that y'all have.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ryan. Great job. Yes, sir.
I know I'm just full of questions today for some reason.
That's great.
Look,
What's your
let
question?
me ask you this.
That B12 shot did it.
Ms. Wilson, let me ask you this, and of course, this can be a question you can answer later on.
Yes, sir.
When the offices are moved from City Center to here,
Yes, sir.
will there be a savings for us in terms of the dollar amount?
Absolutely, because we'll no longer lease the space over at the former Capitol Center.
All right. Those funds that we will save, can we direct those funds?
Have something in mind, Councilman, already.
Yes, I do. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, we'll look at that.
Okay, if you-
Yeah.
Just wanted to just kind of throw that out.
Yes, sir,
And what
absolutely.
that savings, what that saving is.
Sure.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms.
We'll
Wilson,
include a
quick question for
timeline,
you.
move on.
Yes.
Now, this was just for review. You're gonna go ahead and execute the plan, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
That's
Yes, sir. It was just for sharing with the council. Thank you.
Now, we will execute it prior to economic development bringing this to council, is that right?
This
Well,
was,
you
this
go
was
ahead.
our
This is
effort
it.
in bringing
is
it
it.
to council.
This is it?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. This is it?
Well, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't require a vote.
Not an ordinance, not a resolution.
But you've got,
Practice.
all right.
This is an operational deal. It's up to the city manager.
Okay, so there's nothing,
Upon general consensus of council.
yeah, okay. I got a little trepidation with that. I mean, the report is fine, Ryan, you all in this committee did an excellent job in identifying.
Yes, sir.
But it would seem to me that, what are we going to report to council?
So this.
If it's consensual that all council members approves it, then I think it just gives it a better look.
Well, I was hoping that's what I had just now, Reverend McDowell, but are you suggesting that you want to take a vote on the annual
not
plan?
really,
Oh,
not
okay, okay.
The committee has done
Right.
done a real good job in doing this.
Yes, sir.
But I think consensually, for the sake of transparency, it would certainly be good that when we make this report, or if there is a report included, that those issues, not issues, but what we've consensually agreed on is put into the general public.
This is a public meeting.
And it's online. All this information's online.
But everybody is not online. I just think we just need to make sure,
Ed, send it out on your social media if you're worried about
no, I ain't putting it on social media. I think we need to do it the fiduciary way, and that's to put it out there.
Well, here's what I would suggest, like I say, the Economic Development, Community Development Committee brings it unanimous support. If there are no additional questions, I would ask the city manager just to include it in as part of the Economic Development report at the print copy of this at the next council meeting. That way it'll be on public record and that's it. We shouldn't be voting on it.
No, I'm not, I don't want to vote on it. I think, that was an echo I heard from Joe. That's what I want to say, and I think it would be better optically to make sure that everyone knows that. And if we could do that, Joe?
Well, that's what I say, just put it in as
If we could do that.
include it as in part of your city manager report.
Okay.
We don't have to go over the whole thing, just put a copy into the agenda.
We'll link it as part of the report.
Can we do that?
Is that?
Yes,
that-
sir.
Okay.
We'll link it to the next
That
council.
satisfies
On October
everything.
the 4th.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
But you should feel free to go ahead and execute it.
I will do it. I'll do it, absolutely.
I
Put it
guess-
in the report now.
I will do that.
Mayor, can I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Stop it. What I wanted to clarify, Reverend McDowell, are you saying that you just want the public to know that we have a specific strategy and that we're working towards it, more of a let people know these are the changes, or is this more of a transparency? Like, is it more of a this is what we're doing.
It's both of them. It's
Okay.
both things. I mean, sort of similar to our business-friendly initiative. I think we did an excellent job with that. And I think that same effort ought to be inclusive in what we're gonna do with economic development.
Yes, sir.
So, yes, ma'am, if we could include that in your report, and that we've consensually, all of us have consensually agreed. And if there are questions, we send them to either Ryan or Mr. Taylor.
Okay,
Send them to the boss.
okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Our next item for discussion is the Grease Trap Rebate Program. Mr. Jeff Palin, Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Clint Shealy, Assistant City Manager for Columbia Water. Again, all three of these items, the first three, are coming to the full council from the Economic and Community Development Committee with favorable recommendations to proceed.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Sorry. So for the last several meetings, we've had discussions on our Grease Trap program. Clint is also listed on this, but unless y'all have specific questions on the program, which we've talked about more than a few times over the last couple years, Clint will just remain back there unless y'all really need him. So, but I will go over what our current program is, kind of the basic outline. It was authorized by City Council initially back in 2020 by a resolution. We updated it this past year during 2022. In the program for the grease traps, all food service providers in the city can participate. Under the current structure, it's set up as a loan that after a period of time, it becomes forgivable. That's kind of important. That has certain ramifications on a new business's financials. I'm sorry, it can have. I'm not saying it will. It also covered 1/2 of the cost to a maximum amount of $5,000. And we funded the program through an allocation from the Water and Sewer Fund. We transferred $100,000 out of Water and Sewer to a bucket to fund this program. The new program changes that we're recommending after lengthy discussion would require a new authorization by City Council via a future resolution. All food service providers in the city still be able to participate. Instead of a loan, it would be a rebate. It would cover the full cost, not just half, but full cost up to a maximum. And our suggestion is to increase that maximum rebate up to $10,000. And then the program funding would be actually through hospitality tax collections from that particular food service provider, utilizing 1/2 of the monthly actual collections. So if I have entered the program and I've spent $5,000 on my grease trap, over the next year to 2 years, as I'm making my hospitality tax collections and remitting that to the city will then rebate 1/2 of those collections back to the restaurant that put the grease trap in.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, sir. I have problems taking it out of the hospitality collections. I think this is definitely a water sewer expense. It's on grease traps. And although I know that there is a section of the law on hospitality that says water and sewer infrastructure, I don't think it was ever intended to be used for grease traps. Is to be used for, that means big water and sewer infrastructure, not the grease trap. So I would hope that we would keep the money from water and sewer. If you want to judge the rebate based on the hospitality tax collections, that'd be one way to judge it, or you could actually just rebate the maximum up to $10,000 based on water and sewer funding. It'd be simpler.
Disagree. Mr. Mayor, I would suggest this program has a positive fiscal impact on the city. The other has potentially a negative fiscal impact. Couple of corrections, though. Only food service providers who collect hospitality tax would be eligible, not all. Because if you're not collecting the H tax, you can't get the rebate. This puts us in a competitive place with other municipalities around the city. And again, we're only rebating back 1/2. So if this allows us to attract more places to serve food, you will have a net positive impact, not a negative impact on H tax. again, I think it's way better sounds way better than a loan. I think, if I remember correctly, Ms. Herbert talked about some of the struggles that smaller businesses and some of our more developing areas have with funding grease traps, and I really think program's a real winner.
Still, let me ask you this. What's the negative side of this?
There is no negative side because we're not putting out any, we're not putting out any funds unless those funds have been collected via H-Tax.
The negative part would be the $10,000 reduction in H-Tax.
Well,
Actually, yeah, but think about this, Howard. If you have a business that makes a decision to open up and is not deterred by the cost of this, and they're collecting more over a period of time, you're gonna be well above that in collections. You're making more money in hospitality than you did before.
This is a maximum of $10,000. I don't think anybody's
But
gonna
I'm
make
a-
theirs.
But see, what you're
Decision.
missing in this is that if a restaurant opens up, long-term, they're collecting more taxes than the $10,000, correct?
They'll have to get half of it back.
Ms. Herbert?
A couple of things. I did mention during the committee meeting, Main Street Bakery. You all may be familiar with them.
Great
But
cinnamon rolls, by the way.
right, and when they bought that building, they intended to be a restaurant, and they were operating as a restaurant until they found out that they needed a grease trap. And we said, we'll give you a loan, and Ms. Rosa said, I am not taking out a loan. And so that is why it is solely a bakery right now, is because by the time you buy the building and do the upfit, they just didn't have the money for it. So I do believe this is very valuable. But what I will say is we do have funds left over in water sewer from the previous program. And so there is some consideration, I think there is some merit in still using that money for the rebate, because it's.
Return the unused portion of the money to the water and sewer fund. I think that was the motion.
That was the motion,
Okay.
but now that I hear more discussion, I'm just saying I think that is an option. Instead of using the hospitality dollars, use the money that we've already allocated for this program. And then maybe use the hospitality. That's all I'm saying, because we already had it allocated.
I don't have a problem not spending it and putting it back in the water and sewer account, but I will say this, and Ryan mentioned it, and as he went through our economic development thing, one of the things that we intend to do, I think as a city, is recruit more urban developments. That's restaurants and things like that for downtown, because if we want to bring people back from the suburbs into the city in the evenings and stuff, I just think that's a critical step for us. Joe Riley used that same premise to rebuild downtown Charleston early on, and I think when we're out beating the drum and talking about the opportunities to come into Columbia, I think being able to not say we're loaning money, but to say it's a rebate program, I think it gives us a lot more gravitas. Now, candidly, I would tell you in today's business, most folks are going to more interceptors and some things like that, except for the bigger operators, and it'll never, it's just not going to have that much impact. And again, what I would,
It's got a great impact. It creates more
No,
hospitality.
what I'm talking about,
revenue,
it
more
won't have that big an
taxes.
impact on H-Tax, what I was talking about, because you're using interceptors and things like that. And it just, again, I think what we're dealing with a lot of times is what Ms. Herbert was saying about that nice lady that opened that bakery. Loan has a negative connotation, rebate has a positive conversation.
Well, I'm perfectly happy on a rebate. I just don't want it to come out of the hospitality tax. I think the water and sewer fund is a whole lot healthier than the hospitality fund.
Well, Howard,
But
I
it's-
think one's hospitality.
It's
and-
future funding in the hospitality.
Guess what they both
Funded.
are? Taxes.
And it's futuristic.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you look at it as this fund wouldn't be there unless this incentive was in place. That's the way I look at it. These restaurants, these fast and fresh, low impact receptors. Those small business entrepreneurs wouldn't be biting off these projects if it weren't things like this. It's not a big expense. It'll get paid back, what, 2 years, 18 months, maybe? But you got to look at it as these investors would not be biting off these projects to help our needing corridors if this wasn't in place. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I'm delighted to have it in place. I think it's a great program. And the $10,000, I think, will incentivize some people to make it. But they're not going to care whether it comes out of the hospitality tax or whether it is paid back by water and sewer funds. But the people that use the hospitality tax are going to miss that $100,000.
Future. It's future, though. It's not in arrears.
Well, it's
That
still-
money was
it's
never
still
there.
gonna
It's
be
moving
future.
in the future, it's going to be half the H-tax for 18 months.
So
After
the
18 months.
100,000, they got another
That's what I'm
100,000
saying.
because there's 200,000.
Yeah.
You're missing the key words in there.
I'm not missing anything. I'm noted it's coming out of H-tax and you're taking half of it out each month.
Well, if the business is not there, you're
Yeah.
getting zero. That's
Yes,
the
that's-
point. But I'd rather
I
have
want to
something of
have,
something.
I want
than
to
nothing.
have the rebate, but I don't want it to come out of H-tax. I think it needs to come out of the department that's gonna benefit the most from it, which is the sewage department, getting the grease out of the sewage they have to treat.
Well, I will just say this, when it comes to rate increases on water and sewer, I will certainly not be in favor of taking it out of water and sewer when those people on fixed incomes that don't eat out all the time and pay the taxes. I mean, I just think this is I think Jeff developed, again, a very well-done program. It makes us competitive. I think when we sit down with hospitality businesses outside of South Carolina and we're saying this, I just think it's going to make us look good and help us be successful. Again, the committee brought it
And
unanimous.
I'll be honest, I will tell you that, these are the people who are collecting it and gonna generate more. I think it's a wise investment. I'm not sure that water and sewer, you can equate it the same way.
They're not gonna care where the money coming from. They wanna get their rebate back.
But Howard, that senior citizen, where there is no increase in waters, and when it does increase, it's gonna come out of water and sewer, man. And I just don't see that right now. I can't. Any increase in water as it relates to a senior citizen, any constituent who's over 65 and they're retired, that's going to impact our water and sewer, particularly simply because we did not do a water rate increase, and it's going to eventually come futuristically.
We're
It's gonna
facing
come.
a water rate increase, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
We're gonna be
you're
facing-
exactly right. But if you make that inclusive, that's more you're gonna spend.
I think it'd
individually.
be safe to say that we can note for the record that the majority of council is for it. Mr. Howard Duvall is against it. And in hospitality, for the record, that'd be a 6-1 if we were voting. So I think we can move on to the next.
Pull on your ears.
This is a resolution or ordinance, Jeff.
This will be a
So
resolution.
this will get a thumbs up,
It'll
thumbs
come
down
back up.
eventually.
It'll come to council.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct.
We intend to bring a resolution on the October 18th meeting.
Thank you, Jeff.
Another good job.
Thank you,
buddy.
Jeff. You've done well today.
I kept it short just for you.
You concretized that report. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Thank you for using.
Reverend
concrete.
McDowell, I have to request, concretize was 2 meetings ago. We need a new word for this week.
Smart screen.
Do what now?
We need a new word for the week.
Guess what?
Screen-tized.
Before it's over, you'll get a new word.
Under a tree.
That'll be a nice one.
Hey, did you hear that? We talked about that oak tree. Just plant the seed now. In about 10 years, we can get under
Shade
the
tree
tree.
theologian.
That's right.
The Reverend Edward McDowell.
You got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fourth,
Thank you.
Who's the lucky person who gets this one?
Missy Kaufman.
Miss
See
Kaufman.
let's see how she
You
does.
have won a free trip to the podium.
The community promotions grant overview and timeline, which Ms. Missy Kaufman, Budget Program Management and Grants Director, will go back over with you all. We are just really bringing this for council's endorsement and making sure we're on the same page with you all about starting the process for a community promotions fund and a process for allocating those funds.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Good afternoon, council. As Ms. Wilson mentioned, just an update with regards to where we are with the community promotions program. Just as a reminder, you've included $140,000 in your city count, your FY 22-23 budget, $100,000 from general fund, and $40,000 is included in the general purpose portion of accommodations tax. We've attached the guidelines for our community promotion grants. Of course, general fund or general community promotion grants are a little less restrictive than our hospitality tax in the sense that there's not specific restrictions from state law, other than, of course, following public use doctrine, which is required for anything that we spend funds on, grant-wise or otherwise. So, of course, we'll be in compliance there. We have, in the past, not made allocations specifically for types of programs or programmatic allocations. We have allowed, whether it be for specific events or programs, or even in cases we've made operational cost allocations. So I know we have, City Council, over various budget discussions and other discussions, you have made indications about wanting to make some allocations or do some programmatic type of funding. So that is a consideration we could do, or just leave it broad, as has, of course, been done before. So that's probably the one thing that we would talk about with City Council today, if there is any preference or desire to do that. Otherwise, we've also provided for you some of the requirements that would be a part of the grant program. Of course, this would be a grant. Grants are reimbursable. Therefore, reimbursements to the awarded applicants are subject to eligibility based on the criteria set forth in our guidelines. Of course, in this case, applicants that are awarded a grant, the expenses would need to be in compliance with their grant application and spending on what it is that they indicated they would be seeking funding for.
Your intent is you're not gonna go retro though, because you've got on here July 1.
Right.
Which is really, it should really say October 1 or whatever.
Right.
So that people aren't thinking past events qualify for this.
Precisely. We've thought about that and talked through those pieces. Absolutely, I think that probably is a better approach than is to think about it proactively in terms of October 1st through June 30th. We also indicate that the event would need to take place in the city limits, as with our other programmatic activities, of course. At this point, we have discussed a staff committee or possibly the HTAX committee. So we have a variety. There's not always been a committee for community promotions.
Ms. Kaufman, I just wanted to clarify, so on page, the first page of the application, applicant to be funded must be within the corporate limits of the City of Columbia. We probably want to change that, just
Right.
to say that the event itself.
Right. The applicant or the event or program, right.
Okay. And then I would feel a lot more comfortable too if we put that $25,000 limit in the guidelines. It's in the application, but
Sure.
I'd just like to see that. And then is this intended to be based on reimbursement, or is this we cut a check and you are able to, what's the intent? Is it more like hospitality?
Intent is that it's reimbursable, as would all grants typically are.
Okay.
I'm sorry, repeat that again, Missy?
It would be reimbursable expenses.
The entire 140,000 is intended to be,
The applicants, the applicants, when they're awarded the grant.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I got you.
Sorry.
You see, on the guidelines,
Yes, sir.
I think it would be wise if we added a sentence that notified recipients that they may be subject to FOIA.
Sure. I think that is stated, but we'll make sure that it is clear.
I just know that they've just been around and around in another city in the Low Country about that, and it
Yes.
turned out everybody that took the funding is subject to FOIA, and it's kind of like that old joke, you know, you take money from your mother-in-law, she thinks she can tell you how to spend it all, and I think when you FOIA, you get FOIA, you can FOIA it all, so.
Right.
And for clarification, that's only if you receive the funds. Just-
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Missy, quick question. Could neighborhood associations use this for beautification efforts?
Absolutely.
Stuff
We
like
have in
that?
the past.
To that
Okay.
list
Just
when
wanna
we
make
had
sure.
suggested different eligibility, because I just want to make sure I'm clear with the council, because you all have discussed various things, and even when we talked about the ARPA funds as well. You're good programmatically with any of these being considered, public space beautification, community cleanup, youth programs, senior programs, et cetera?
We
Is
are.
that the intent?
I don't have any problems with it. I think it would be helpful to include that list in the guidelines
As recommendations.
or examples, you know.
We would, and absolutely, and we would also include examples of
Right.
eligible expenses and ineligible expenses.
Yeah, I would,
Sure.
just so it'll help, because I've already told a couple of neighborhoods, I told them last night, you know, that we have some funds coming up.
Want to make
that
sure it's not a difference.
I feel like
maybe
there's
we
also
use.
some community development has discussed some funds as well.
Missy,
Until we get there.
great team.
I'm done.
Let me ask you this, you know, usually there is a granting program of about $1,200 for communities for beautification. Is that included in the monies, or is that separate?
No, sir, I believe those are separate. I believe that might be through the community development.
Do what now?
I believe that might be the community development program. We'll follow up and see, but that's
So it'd be
not
two
specific here.
different funds?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And did we include up to 25,000, Missy,
did,
as our recommendation?
Yes.
Is council fine with that?
And you were going to add that to page 15 in or
The
4A?
guidelines, yeah. Yeah, in the application, but I want it in the guidelines.
There it is.
Yeah. But we're gonna put it in the guidelines as well.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Kaufman? Not only what is,
When do you plan to release the notice?
Our goal is to release the notice next week
Okay.
with intention of bringing back, of course, city council would make the final allocations or approval of the allocations as you do now with the other grant programs. And we would target your second meeting in November, or possibly your first meeting in December.
Great, thank you.
Either H-Tech or
I do think we need to establish what committee will do it, and it should hopefully be one we've already established. We don't need to create any more
Correct.
committees.
Right. That's
One
right,
of
thank you.
The council committees, Mayor? Or you're saying,
No.
no? Oh, one of
Like
our
either
established, like
H-Tax
H-Tax
or
committee. Oh,
somebody
okay.
that's
Or
already.
staff, or city staff.
Yes. Very good. On that note, since we're talking about these allocations and the note for going out, the H-Tax surplus, Missy, what was, just for a reminder for council, that process?
So that process, we are prepared to reopen those applications again for applicants to submit for events and activities from January to June 30th. The committee is ready to serve again to review those applications. So we'd follow a similar type of schedule as we have for community promotions.
And we need to, I think, advertise, because we've got a
Yes.
conflict there that we need to resolve.
Advertise for the committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a member.
Okay.
There it is.
Look, there it is.
Got it.
Got a new word today. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you, brother.
Conflictual, amazing, truly.
Just to make sure you were listening.
Hey, and just for those out there who want to know, we will have the Ed-isms T-shirts for sale for your holiday enjoyment coming up.
They will be for sale and all proceeds will go to Ed McDowell. District 2 Fund. Thank you very much.
He's retired from passing the plate.
That's
Now
right.
he's going to pass the T-shirt.
It's called love offering. I think it's important for us to note that if HTAC's committee does the evaluation of these forms, and the applications, we will use the same criteria, if I heard you right, Missy, in evaluating those forms, is that right? Or is it based on this document?
So community promotions will have its own set of criteria, somewhat similar. Hospitality tax for the next application period for January to June, they would use the same criteria that was used for the prior hospitality tax. But community promotions has a slightly different because the use of the funds is not as restrictive as a hospitality tax.
But that's the issue I wanted.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Mr.
I have a
Duvall?
question.
Thank you for being concise.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion we go into executive session for discussion of employment of employee pursuant to SC Code 30-4-70A1, municipal court, discussion of matters related to proposed location expansion or provision of services encouraging location or expansions of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body pursuant to 30-4-70A5 project framework.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Brennan. Madam Clerk, can you read the roll?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.